Hi everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Practice Vlogs, and today I'm going to be talking about how I learn music pieces without existing recordings. My name is Samuel Cho, if you don't know already, and I'm a new music performer and pianist. I vlog about learning and practicing new music and my struggle and the journey that comes with it. So if that interests you and you want to see me doing more of these kind of work, consider subscribing and let's get going. To begin, what does it mean to learn a work of music without existing recordings? So what it actually means is just that there are no pre-existing recordings, official, bootleg or otherwise, of a piece. It could be due to various reasons, such as the work being relatively new, not being recorded yet. It could also be because that the piece is relatively unknown. The reason why this is interesting is because listening to recordings is actually part of the learning process of many classical musicians. How it's usually done is that when they learn a music piece, the first thing they do actually is, to choose the piece. What usually happens is that we look up the music online, as we do nowadays, and take a listen to it and see if we like it. What that does is that it informs your interpretation of the music before you even begin learning the piece. So you already have an oral idea inside your head what the music is, what the music sounds like. And this is usually part of the process of learning classical repertoire. However, if you're like me, doing a lot of new music, you'll definitely come across a lot of music that has never been recorded before, and you don't know how it sounds like. This is a completely different way of learning music than what we're used to if we're just doing classical or traditional repertoire, because we don't have the piece inside our head already. We don't know what the piece actually is, because usually when we talk about pieces, we're referring to the actual piece of work in time as it sounds. But with new works that have never been recorded before, we don't know how that sounds like. So that's a little background about this whole learning process. The work that I'm going to be learning today is called Repetition by a composer named Ulli Götte, a local German composer from Kassel, where I used to study. I have the opportunity of performing Repetition in September. The first thing I would do is look through the score. So it's not a very long piece with 11 pages. From my experience, it's usually about 7 or 8 minutes, depending on the tempo. After looking through the score, I'm going to play through the work and try to look for structure, to try to analyze the structure of the work. So let's do that now. So in the beginning, we only have material that goes like this. And then the main material comes in. It goes like this. Something like that. After this section, we have a new motive. The D is still repeated, but it has a new rhythm. It sounds like this. Something like that. And then after a while, later in this section, the rhythm stays the same, but then the D stops repeating. So we don't have the repetitions anymore. And it goes like this. Something like that. This becomes a variation afterwards with some kind of displacement in the rhythm. I'm just going to play the right hand to show you guys what I mean. Something like that. As you can hear, the rhythm is now extrapolated into something longer. This is repeated. This phrase is then elongated later on into things like that. The next section is in 12/8. It goes like this. a slithering texture in this part, which, because of the groupings of the 16th notes, sounds like a rhythmic or tempo modulation, but it's actually not. This escalates into the next section, which I would say would be the biggest transition, because right now we jump down tempo into something quite slow and actually quite atmospheric. It sounds like this. We have sustained chords in the left hand. And this left hand chord, a stack of fourths, repeats itself throughout the entire section. Later on in this section, new rhythms arise. Things like that. And after this section, we go up a tempo again. So it seems like we have exited this slow section. This section has a small introduction. There's a fermata over it. It repeats itself. And then it accelerates. So 3 bars of a short intro to tell you what's going to come afterwards. And afterwards, there's actually something quite interesting. What happens in the left hand is this. So what happens is that these small running 16 notes in the left hand increase in length each time. So we have 2, and we have 3, and we have 4, 5, and then we have 6. And it sounds like it's together. After this running left hand section, we come back to this motif, where previously it was like this. It is now just running 16 notes. This goes out throughout the whole section with interesting left hand accompaniments, which are actually in 3s. So it sounds something like that. So the left hand has these kind of limping style. And this develops, and we come to the next section. The next section is quite interesting. It's actually just a single line, and it reminds me of a jazz solo, a crazy free jazz saxophone solo. I mean, take a listen to this. Just imagine a saxophone playing that song. I already have this kind of impression, association with this passage. It's definitely gonna inform how I play this piece later on. And then it goes on and it goes on, and then finally it reaches the repetition again. And this goes on, and then finally we come to a section where the repeated Ds are now in tremolos. And this goes on, the tremolo stays there until the end of the piece, and the right hand has interjections of chords, which are stacked fourths, augmented, or perfect fourths. And there you have it, that's the whole rundown of the piece. After looking at the structure of the piece, I have a basic idea of what the piece is actually about. From what I can see, it's about how repetition can be disrupted. The piece is also about how the composer can use repetition to create musically interesting narratives. Alright, so I guess that actually concludes this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Tell me what you want to see in future videos in the comments below. I'll be working on this piece in the upcoming 2 months. And I'll see all of you in the next episode. And until then, take care.